I am so flipping mad. Every one of these games had something in it that made me so angry that I was on the verge of rage quitting. Hey guys, I'm RNG Gamer. I play all my games randomly, and welcome to Beating the Backlog, where I talk about the 5 games that were picked for me to play randomly. First up, we have a game from a series that lots of people really love, and I've never played any of them before. This is my first one. It's the Great Ace Attorney Adventures. And this is on the Ace Attorney Adventures Chronicles pack on the Nintendo Switch. This originally came out on the 3DS, and it uses the same sort of courtroom-style gameplay that you see in Phoenix Wright, which I think this is kind of a pseudo-prequel for. Sadly, even though this is part of that series, and like I said, it's very beloved, it's considered to be one of the weakest entries in the entire series, which is a disappointment for me getting started with it. This game takes place in the late 1800s in Japan during the time of the British Empire's heavy influence and westernization of that country. You play as Ryunosuke, a university student and the ancestor to Phoenix Wright, and he's thrust into this legal world after being accused of murder in his home country. He ends up having to defend himself in court. Things steamroll from there. He ends up in the UK where he has to act as an attorney. There are 5 chapters in this game that are all loosely based off of various Sir Arthur Conan Doyle stories, you know, Sherlock Holmes stories. And Sherlock Holmes makes an appearance in this game as Sherlock Sholmes, which is, is it clever? I can't tell if it's clever. It's not clever. That's like a 12-year-old's idea of clever. Not even a 12-year-old, man. My 9-year-old comes up with stuff better than that. I guess it's what you'd expect from these sort of games. There are these standard court proceedings, and you cross-examine witnesses, you comb through evidence, and you try to piece together a strong argument to present at the trial. Sometimes before that, you have to do some investigating of the crime scene and things like that. Sometimes you don't. You're just thrown right into the trial. But you have to point out different fallacies from the witnesses and punch holes in their stories and link things together to make a compelling argument to win your case. The game has a very nice look to it. The graphics are mainly still images with dialogue on the screen, with a little bit of animation here and there, like the characters' eyes darting around crazily or them like pounding their hands on the lectern or things like that. I kind of like that. It's distracting, but it sort of has a nice charm to it. And the art style is beautiful. The backgrounds and the scenery and things are all done extremely well. There's just not a lot of animation. The music is extremely good and very epic, and that really helps keep the energy level up of this game, which you need because it's just mainly dialogue and selecting choices. There's no real gameplay in terms of moving around or punching things or quick time events or anything like that. So you need upbeat music to keep the energy level high, which I appreciated, and it was very catchy, and I did enjoy it. I have played the Danganronpa series, and I love the investigating in that game, and I really like the courtroom or the trial sort of phases of the game, and I was really looking forward to this because, like I said, everybody's told me how amazing it is, and I did enjoy a lot of the courtroom proceedings. It can be fun trying to find the right evidence to strike down a statement and things like that, but I will say this game is way too long. It's 5 chapters, and each one is longer than the last one. In fact, the last chapter took me 8 freaking hours to finish it. 8 hours! I thought I was halfway done with it, and late one night I just decided I was going to finish the game off, and I ended up playing till 3 o'clock in the morning. Trying to finish this game. The characters just won't shut up. It has that classic anime trope where every character in the scene has to comment on everything that happens in the scene, you know, and they don't rely on you to remember what's going on. So you'll cross-examine a witness, they'll make their statement, and they'll say, I found myself over on the corner near the bookstore and I saw all this really bad stuff happen. And then it'll cut over to you and the character will internally monologue to himself, that's interesting that he was over by the corner of the bookstore and he saw all that happen. And then it'll cut to the legal assistant and she'll say, maybe we should remember that he's over by the bookstore and that he saw a lot of strange stuff happen. Maybe we should go back and question him again about this statement. Maybe we should push him harder. And then the main character will internally monologue to himself, pushing him harder. It's strange she would say something so informal like that. But maybe we should question him again and push him a little harder. Then you go back and question the guy again, and it just goes on and 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 on. It's too verbose. We don't need to do that. The game needs to rely on us to remember what was just said. We don't have to rehash every fact that happens over and over and over again. And I have to say, It really wore me out and it put me to sleep. There were many times I was playing this on my Switch, lying in my bed, and I woke up in the morning with my Switch battery dead and the console just lying flat on my chest where I passed out. Also, I didn't really find the cast of characters that interesting. Ryanosuke and his friends and his legal assistant, they were all okay, but most of the characters were just stereotypical characters. There's like the young cute girl who's a genius, and then the bumbling buffoon with the heart of gold, and there's the legal assistant that's really the true hero of the game. Also, the cases, while being very convoluted and having a lot of twists and turns, they just weren't that interesting to me. I found them to be kind of boring. The trials are good, but the investigation segments were absolutely torturous. You have to click on all these items in the area, and it says a paragraph statement about every single little thing, whether it has any bearing on the case or not, and that could take hours and hours and hours of just doing that. You're reading about music boxes and tables and sets of bone china and harpsichords and crap. Why? Why are we spending our time doing this? Does the game just not trust us to know what it was like in England in the late 1800s, and they have to point out every object in every room so you're like, oh, that's really strange. I had no idea that they used oil lamps all the time. I assumed they just used freaking LED light bulbs. Like, what? The game just doesn't trust you. It doesn't trust you to keep up with what's going on and to understand the context of the game. And that's what really drove me crazy. Also, the game ends on a flipping cliffhanger, and I should have known that because it's on a double pack on the Switch with the sequel to this game, but it leaves you with more questions than answers. This game is over 30 hours long, and it really should have been about 8. And I'm kind of dreading playing the second one, to tell you the truth. Is this game just bad compared to the other Phoenix Wright games? Are they more fun? Because I'm not pumped about the series anymore, guys. I have to say, I'm kind of considering dropping all of those games off my wish list because this left such a bad impression. While the game started off pretty strong, it really drug on way too long, and I was absolutely exhausted with it at the end. So sadly, the great Ace Attorney Chronicles is only a 6 out of 10. It's okay, but I don't really feel like it's worth the time commitment to get into it. Up next, we have a game on the original NES. It only came out in Japan. It was based off a truly terrible movie, but it's the inspiration for the entire Resident Evil series. And that game is Sweet Home. It took me for flippin' ever to finish this game, although it's not really that long. I streamed it back in October as part of the horror marathon streams I was doing. And while I think this is a really good game, spoilers, it's just a bad game for streaming. It's a lot of wandering around, not knowing what to do, and getting stuck in random battles. That being said, this is a kind of survival horror game. It is a survival horror game, but it's played in turn-based RPG fashion. It feels like an old 8-bit RPG game, and that's what it is. This team of researchers enters this old mansion to photograph some old frescoes that have been painted on the wall, which, that was redundant. All frescoes are painted on walls. That's what a fresco is. But after they get in there, the ceiling collapses and it traps them inside, and they learn that the mansion is haunted. You have to solve puzzles, pick up items, and generally just survive to make your way out. All along the way, taking pictures of the frescoes. Because that's your job. That's what you're here to do, man. There are 5 characters, each with their own special item. And they're split into 2 groups. You can't have more than 3 people on a team. So you're going to be controlling 3 people on one team and 2 on the other. And it kind of plays a little bit like Resident Evil 0, where you control 2 characters simultaneously. You have to leave one behind somewhere to use the other one. And so there's that whole thing going on with this game as well. You have the limited inventory space that you'd expect from a survival horror game, and you have to leave stuff on the floor as well as your storage box, I guess. Just like Resident Evil 0. It's amazing how influential this game was to that game. So you're making notes all the time of where you leave your stuff on the ground and where it is in the mansion so you can go back and get it later. You can't carry that much stuff. Photographing the frescoes, which I mentioned earlier, is really important, and it gives you clues on how to progress in this game. And you're gonna need to know that, because there's no way you would ever be able to finish this game without those clues, and even those don't quite give you enough to really beat the game. I had to resort to looking at a walkthrough many times, and I got stuck for like an hour on the stream, and Chat was looking through walkthroughs trying to figure out how to help me progress, and even they and I working together couldn't figure out what to do for the longest time. So be prepared to get stuck. Another interesting mechanic of this is if the character dies, it's permanent. So you won't have them to help you fight anymore, and you won't have their special item to help you progress. Now, they do put replacement items for them around that the other characters can use, but that really hurts you because it fills up your inventory space. And 3 of your inventory slots, and that's all you have, will have 2 of them being filled by these essential items. So it becomes into a real juggling act to try to get everything you need in one location. Now, luckily you can save your game at any time, so if you're saving frequently and you die, it's not that big of a deal. And I do like that a lot of the puzzles have multiple ways to get through them in case one of your characters dies. So you don't have to have all the unique items on you at all times. You can get through some areas missing one. The graphics look like any other kind of 8-bit RPG, but the combat counters and the enemy models look fantastic. They're like the coolest looking enemies I've seen in any 8-bit RPG. There are also some really cool cutscenes and set pieces that make this game stand out and really memorable, and I guess that's kind of what it's known for. This has one of the most graphic scenes of any 8-bit game ever, and no one ever wants to spoil it, but I'm gonna spoil it right now. You get to see a character's skin melt off towards the end of the game and turn into a skeleton. And I can't believe that got through Nintendo's heavy censorship around the time. I mean, it did only come out in Japan, but still, that's really surprising to me. The music is also really decent in this. It's very spooky, but not quite spooky enough, and it's not super catchy, and there's only a few tracks that repeat a lot, so you'll get a little burned out on the music, I have to say, but it does fit the game very well. My favorite part of this game, other than just the general atmosphere and its historical importance, is I love the puzzle focus of this, and I really like the inventory management a lot. I know that's something that most people hate, but that's one of the things I really enjoy about the Resident Evil games. That in itself is a kind of puzzle, and that's really prevalent here and very cool. But there are some caveats to that, as there always are. A lot of the puzzles are extremely esoteric, and I have no idea how anyone would ever figure them out if they missed a fresco or if they didn't look at a walkthrough somewhere. The areas in the game are really large and sprawling and maze-like, and the game really needs a map. Interestingly enough, my copy, by the way guys, this is a homebrew that I had, it has the English translation on it, came with a map. And even with the map, it's so convoluted that I still can't figure out where I am or where I need to go. It's that bad. Even going on like GameFAQs and looking through the various maps of the areas of this game will still confuse you immensely. There's also crap in this game like invisible items that are sort of semi-required to be picked up or really make the game impossible, not impossible, but extremely difficult if you don't find them. They might just be in a corner somewhere and you just have to click to look in the corner to find the boots that you need to walk faster to get past all the spirits at the end of the game, because you can't outrun them if you don't have them. And it never mentions that in the game, and you would never find them unless you're just walking around clicking on every single tile in the game. This really is a Nintendo Power game. This is a kind of game like Nintendo Power where you need the maps, you need to know where everything is to get through it. It's that sort of game. I mean, this is one of the most influential games of all time. I don't know how anybody could debate that. You can see how it made a huge impact towards the entire survival horror genre. The stuff that we just take for granted now, this game created that, you know? We're still using these elements to this day, and you can see why it's considered a classic and extremely groundbreaking. It's also really fun. It's just a fun game. I enjoyed leveling up. I kind of like the idea that there's only a set number of healing items around the entire game. They were enough. It was ample enough, but you can soft lock yourself in this game if you use too many planks of wood or you use too many healing items. So there is some risk there associated with that, and you only have the one save file, so you can't mess up too badly or you might have to start over. But once you know where to go, it does get a lot faster. Having to switch between the different items and the different characters and remembering where you leave things on the ground can get really just fiddly, and there's a lot to keep track of. It's asking a lot of the player, but it rewards you for your hard work, I have to say. So Sweet Home was a remarkable game. I'm really kind of embarrassed that it took me so long to finish it. I started it in October. I finished it in January. That was a long time. I did get a little anxious thinking about having to dive in and manage all that inventory and all the characters and getting lost and things like that. But one day I just sat down and just plowed through the game, and it only took me a few hours. You're not going to be able to pick this up anywhere and play it unless you read Japanese, and I think this game's really expensive on the Famicom. There are English ROMs out there, translations for you guys. Give it a shot. Sweet Home is a straight up 8 out of 10 game. It is great. I had a great time with it. I highly recommend it. But I don't highly recommend this next one. This game is probably going to be in the running for one of the worst games I played all year. I played it on the SNK 40th Anniversary Collection, and it's Bermuda Triangle. This is a very early shoot 'em up from like 1987, back before they really knew what they were doing with shoot 'em ups, especially SNK. So there's kind of a story to this. I don't really know that there's much of a story to most shmups. There isn't. I don't know why I said I don't know. There's not. Most of them don't have stories, and if they do, nobody cares. Nobody cares about this one. But anyway, you're going to the past and into the future, and you're traveling around through time trying to destroy an enemy who has invaded history. Okay. Cool. Bermuda Triangle, I don't know what that has to do with any of it. I guess maybe they were abducting people from the Bermuda Triangle and that's what caused humanity's downfall. I don't know, dude. Whatever the crap. It seems like a standard vertical shmup, but it has some really annoying aspects to it. When you destroy the enemy ship's power-ups drop. And these are not only your health, but also cause your ship to change form and upgrade its firepower. And I use the term upgrade loosely because some of the weaker configurations of your ship seem way better and more powerful than the strong ones. So instead of it being like level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it's like 1, 2, 6, 3, 4, 10, 7, 8. Like it's all over the freaking place. And this game is full of an entirely colossal amount of just BS. Enemies shoot you from off screen, and the timing is random, so you can't learn when it's going to happen. Enemies love to just kamikaze directly into you if you get close to the edge and you don't know they're there. And it doesn't matter where you are, on the left side of the screen or the right side of the screen, doesn't matter, they will kill you guaranteed. Also, your ship is freaking huge, and there are these mines that downgrade your power-ups that you have to constantly maneuver through. And a lot of the time, your ship is so big, you can't. You just have to crash into them because the egress funnels, for a lack of a better way to describe it, and that's a terrible way to describe it, but we're gonna go with that, they funnel you right into the enemy gunfire. There are also these stupid black holes scattered all around the stage, and if you fly to one, it basically takes you to hell, and there's no way to survive. It doesn't kill you right out of the way, it puts you in a shmup torture chamber till you slowly lose your mind trying to avoid the just general onslaught of these enemies. I mean, look at this footage. Even with the ability to rewind in this game, and they give you the ability to rewind at any time, it's still almost impossible. You just don't have the reaction time to do everything. The enemies are too fast, you're way too slow. But worst of all, you know what is really good just game design? You know, just a brilliant game design feature? How about after every level that you finish, you have to go into reverse and play through the entire level again, except you can't shoot backwards. So you just dodge like crazy, and when you get back to the start of the level, they make you play through the entire freaking stage again. That's 3 flippin' times for each stage. What the crap? Why would you ever think that was a good idea? I mean, their reasoning was that this is an arcade game and they want you to pump in more quarters, and this is a real easy way to pad out your game threefold. That's insane to me. The game was just designed to take your money. There's no two ways about it. That's all it is. There's no enjoyment there. It's not like a clever con man that lures you in and charms you, and then slowly over time, as you grow to love him, he siphons money off from your bank account. This game is just a guy that walks up to you on the streets and punches you in the chest and grabs your wallet and runs away laughing. That's what this game is. It looks bad, it sounds bad, the music super sucks, and it has no redeeming qualities whatsoever. And it's one of the worst games I've played this year, and there's a reason no one ever talks about it. Bermuda Triangle is a disaster. There's no two ways about it. It's a terrible, terrible, terrible game. It's painful to play. it is a 3 out of 10. I have a real bad habit of watching these other YouTubers like me talk about a bunch of games they picked up, and I see something that looks slightly interesting, and instead of just buying one game to try it out, I buy like every game in the series, which is what happened with this game. It's Azure Striker Gunvolt. So Radical Reggie is a huge fan of this series. He talks about it all the time and he really loves it. He says it's like Mega Man and Mega Man X, so I was in, buddy. You better believe I'm gonna play something that plays like Mega Man. But, this game started off the worst way any game can start off, and that's with an anime cutscene full of just awkward word salad. It's like poorly translated, and it doesn't really make much sense because we don't know what's going on and we don't know the backstory. It's like when you walk into a movie 3/4 of the way through and there's like a big heist going on and you have no investment in it because you don't know what's going on, dude. You just walked in. That's what this game is like when it starts at the beginning. You're just some electricity-powered hero. I can't remember what his name is, but it's something dumb. Is it Gunvolt? Is his name Gunvolt? His name might be Gunvolt. You'll let me know in the comments when I'm wrong. That's fine. We'll go with Gunvolt. We're gonna call him Gunvolt. You're trying to save this Japanese idol who has been plugged into an AI. Sure, fine. That's what we're supposed to be invested in with this game. So like I said, Radical Reggie touted this game as being like Mega Man and Mega Man X, which I'm a big fan of those. But it turns out it's not like Mega Man X, and it's not like Mega Man. It's like Mega Man Zero, which I don't like at all. You don't just shoot the enemies. Instead, you like shoot the enemies to tag them, and then you stand close to them and you zap them with this electricity aura. You can gain new items, but really they just kind of like give you a different method to tag the enemies. Most of the damage you're gonna be doing is with this stupid electricity aura that arcs over to them. You gain new items and you can craft new items from the stuff that you collect around the stages. But a lot of the stuff to collect has these really strict requirements, which is what makes it like Mega Man Zero. They want you to play the same stages over and over and over again to essentially learn to speed run them to gain these items to help you get a better trinket that'll let you triple jump instead of double jump and that sort of stuff. It's almost like Monster Hunter, where the whole thing is built around this idea of grinding for these materials. And I kind of don't like that. I shouldn't say I don't like doing that. The music is killer in this game. I wish I could play it for you without getting like a copyright claim, but I'm afraid to do that. So you're just gonna have to stick with the stock music we got here. But trust me, it's as rocking and as pumping as you would ever imagine, and it suits this style of game perfectly. On the other hand though, the retro graphics and the character design and the level design, they're all really lacking and just boring. I didn't like looking at anything. I didn't think the enemies were interesting. It recycles the same enemies over and over again. It was just, the presentation of this game is not great outside of the music. And I have to say that I was not really having a good time with this game to begin with. Not at all. I actually disliked it. But the game starts picking up about 1/3 of the way through, and the final few stages have a really good challenge to them. The first half of the game is so easy that anybody could blow through it. Like, the enemies just shoot blindly. There's not that many of them. There's big open spaces in the level, and it's just kind of boring. But once it starts picking up and playing like a real Mega Man game, it's engaging. There are way too many cutscenes in this game and tons of text, and the text is right on top of the screen, and it actually blocks the action and causes you to take damage because you can't see through the text. I didn't even learn you could turn this off until like 85% of the way through the game, and that was too late. It's too late by that point, man. Also, the boss fights, while they can be interesting and they do have some cool patterns that remind me of playing an old Nintendo game, all of the bosses have these ultimate abilities that they will go off on, and they will just instantly KO you. No matter how well you're doing, you could have done the whole fight without ever getting hit, and the boss will just do its super mega ultra climax attack and kill you. And the first time you play through, you don't know when these are gonna happen. They just happen randomly. I mean, you get a little cutscene, but by that point, it's too late to react. You're dead. The game has the classic ending where there's like a boss rush, which I didn't really like. They did put a little spin on the bosses to make them a little bit different, but they were mainly the same. And I was able to blow through them on my second try playing through this game. But I will say that the final boss, I got stuck on him. Like, it took me about, I don't know, an hour and a half of attempts to take him down. And I went online to like see if I was doing something wrong. And you can level up in this game that makes you a little bit more powerful. And people were recommending being about level 45 to beat the boss. I was level 27. That's how much this game wants you to replay the other earlier levels. I didn't really replay any of them. I just went through the game and didn't worry about getting the upgrades, and I didn't worry about getting any of the power-ups, and I didn't worry about being leveled up. I just went straight through it, and I have to say, other than the little boss rush and a few points like the last boss, I was able to blow through the game. It wasn't that challenging to me. So I beat it, but apparently I got the bad ending. So what you're supposed to do is beat the game once with the bad ending, then go back and collect all of the hidden gems throughout the game to get a magic necklace, and then beat it again, and that can unlock the good ending. I'm not gonna do that crap. This game is not worth playing through 2 times. This game is worth playing through exactly 1 time. That's how many times I played through it. That's how many times I'm ever going to play through it. The tagging the enemies and then like holding down a button to arc electricity over to them is not an interesting gameplay mechanic to me. That is a passive mechanic. It feels like in a game where you poison an enemy and then you just run around and wait for the poison to tick them down. It's a more complicated version of that, with the electricity being on a power meter. It's a lot of things that you're managing that never really feel like they're impacting the game. No good, guys. We don't want to do passive damage. We want to do active damage because it's fun. It's active. So Azure Striker Gunvolt, as much as I wanted to love it, it's just a 7 out of 10. Now that's a good game, but I don't think it's going to convert anyone into a lover of side-scrolling action games like Mega Man. Lastly, we have a game that is one of the most bizarre and strange games I've ever played. I did a member video of this called "Did I Hallucinate This Game?" because my experience with it was unlike anything I've ever experienced playing any other game. And the title of this one, for realsies, is Illmatic Envelope Swamp. This doesn't look or feel like a real game. I had no idea what was going on at first, and even after I learned how to play it, I still kind of didn't have any idea what was going on. It's done by Milestone, or I think they've changed their name to Mebius, maybe? I'm not sure. They're known for making these overly complex, but sort of subpar shoot-'em-up games. We reviewed Radargy's Swag on this channel, which is on this compilation with the game where I'm talking about right now. But they've done Keris, they did Chaos Field, they've done a bunch of really strange shoot-'em-ups that kind of turn the genre on its head for better or actually for worse. There's some story. I don't know what the crap it is. There's no telling. I don't know. The screen text, there's so much screen text. I'm sure even if I did read Japanese, it's just like 300 pages of like psycho schizophrenic ranting. I could probably spend 2 hours talking about how this game works, but I'm going to give you a general overview of it. There are 100 stages in this game, and you have to take different forks in the path to find them all. So you can't do them all in one run. You slowly fill them in over time by doing run after run after run. Each stage has a challenge in it that you have to complete to find these keys that will allow you to unlock the paths. You can't use the keys right away. You have to get to the end of one path, and whatever keys you've collected along the way, when you beat the final boss, it banks them for the next run. So you have to grind up the keys over time. The goals are in the top left, and it's usually like an easy one, a middle difficulty one, and a really hard one. Easy ones give bronze keys, medium ones give silver keys, and the really hard ones give gold keys. And those are really hard to do. And the way you complete these challenges is it shows an enemy type and then the way in which you have to kill them. And this really makes the game feel more like a puzzle game than a shoot 'em up, and that it's just way too complicated to explain in detail. Just be aware of the fact that there are about 8 different attack types that you access through various ways and nonsensical button combinations. Things like hold down the left trigger and then double tap right on the right analog stick while also pressing the triangle button, and then that will like shift you into a configuration mode. And then you can press down on the right analog stick, and then you can shoot out saw blades from your body, and then you move closer to enemies until your ultra gauge fills up, at which point you discharge that, but that moves you out of that mode into a different configuration. It's just stuff like that over and over and over again. And it's weird having to like play through the same stages over and over and over again, using different gameplay styles to dispatch these enemies to unlock these keys, to slowly fill out this entire map. As for the presentation of the game, it looks absolutely insane, as you can see, but it looks insane in a good way. I love the vibrant and thrown together look of it. It doesn't really look like it was planned. It looks like a multi-medium collage, like when people glue cardboard onto an oil painting and then they have acrylic plexiglass on it. It's just this mismatched look, and I enjoyed that. It's a standout feature of the game for sure. But the soundtrack, on the other hand, much like all of the games done by this developer, it's just repetitive house techno with like a break beat that sort of fades into the background, and I just can't get into it. If you're gonna be replaying levels over and over and over again and grinding for hours and hours and hours and hours, you need catchy music, not music that's easy to ignore. And that's what this game has. All right, so we've talked about that, but let's focus on really encompassing what this game's like. Because I know a lot of you guys out there have not played crazy shoot 'em ups by these people and understand what I'm talking about. But you know what everybody has played? Street Fighter. So here's an analogy for you. Imagine you're playing Street Fighter, and on the Chun-Li fight, they told you that in order to beat her, you have to beat her using only uppercuts. Then after that, you fight E Honda, and you can only progress if you win using kicks this time. And every stage is like that through the whole game. It gets old really, really quickly. But they want you to play through it like 500 times, and each time you fight Chun-Li, instead of uppercuts this time, you have to do dragon uppercuts, you know, to get a gold key so that you can bank 55 gold keys to, on your 80th run, actually fight M. Bison and beat the game. But then you find out that that's only path number 4 out of 67 paths, and you need to go through the whole game again, this time playing as Vega, and you can only win by timing out every match this time. And that'll give you the 43 bronze keys. And if you beat Blanca in the 3rd stage with only an odd number on the timer, then you bank your... So it's just that sort of stuff over and over again. It gets really old really quickly. And I had to watch a video explaining how to play this game. And no joke, guys, the video was called A Quick Guide to Illmatic Envelope Swamp. And it was over an hour long, and it barely touched on the basics. And it didn't even hit the stuff I was trying to figure out how to do. I could not believe that. This is one of the most complicated and unwieldy games to play that I have ever seen. There's nothing like it. Milestone's games are overly complex, but this is the worst offender by far. Just the worst. I loved the graphical presentation of this game, and I like, in theory, the idea of unlocking these keys and unlocking this map. They just made the barrier for entry too high. This game is just too complex. Seems like the kind of game you could devote days and weeks and months and years to perfecting and unlocking everything, but at the end of the day, it's just not that fun to play. Even once you get a hang of the controls and the weird idiosyncratic things it requires you to do, I commend them on their insane nonsense, but Illmatic Envelope Swamp. Is that what it's called? Illmatic Envelope Swamp. It's just a 6 out of 10. I would recommend it for fun, but I don't even know where you'd find it. This physical release is almost impossible to get. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more of me, consider subscribing. Hit that bell notification so you get to know when the new videos come out. They come out every single Saturday. Give me a like and leave a comment. I'm still answering every single comment. It's getting challenging. I'm growing more than I thought I would, but I'm still doing it. If you made it this far, guys, I really appreciate you. And I would like to take this as an opportunity to thank the channel members. You can see their names on the screen right now. You can become a member by joining below in the description or going to Patreon. They're the same thing. You get access to all my videos early. You get access to member exclusive videos. There's a whole bunch of other stuff you can do if you want to help. Watching the videos is the best thing you can do, but if you want to do a little bit more, this is how you can do it. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for all your support, and I'll catch you guys next time.